Hello and welcome. I'm Pastor Lamont Boneth of the Paoli United Methodist Church in Paoli, Indiana. The congregation has been very helpful. One of the benefits that I get of being pastor at the Paoli United Methodist Church is I have a fund set up for continuing education. And so this allows me to purchase books or other items and keep up on some issues. But one of the things that I've wanted to do for a long time, and with the advent of social media, it's now possible, and I can do different things with very specific focuses. So what I'm doing here in honor of Mother's Day is to, and I know you're going to love this, is to let people know that mothers are women. Duh, Pastor, tell us what we already know. But historically, women have not had the right to vote and have not had certain freedoms that were available for different generations, going back at least three. And the men were the ones that were allowed to vote, and the women were not allowed to vote. And so there was a movement, particularly toward the end of the Civil War, when the Negro slaves were dealing with similar issues. And so I want to lift this up as a part of history, just for us to consider that the church plays a role in helping with equality. In other words, everyone should have the right to vote. And because we are a democracy, we're stronger when everyone's involved and has rights to vote and can influence the way this country goes. So this isn't, I got this at a bookstore for just $3. It's entitled Great American Speeches, and it's got a whole bunch of them for $3. And I went through and I found there's this woman, a black woman, called Sojourner Truth. And she is the key speaker at the Ohio Women's Rights Convention, Akron, Ohio, 1851. So this is just a little bit before the Civil War, but the impact, now Sojourner lived from 1797 to 1883. She was born a slave in New York State and was emancipated by the state in 1828. She traveled throughout the North, preaching religion, abolitionism, and women's rights. Wow, what a woman. In 1850, she attended the first National Women's Rights Convention in Worcester, Massachusetts, and the following year she spoke at the Ohio Women's Rights Convention. And her words were recorded by Frances Gage, the convention organizer, and printed in 1878 in the Narrative of Sojourner Truth. So here she goes. Here's her keynote speech. And bear with me, I apologize because I've got to read it. It's just so detailed, I don't want to really mess up. So she's addressing a group of women. Well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women of the North, all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all of this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helped me into a carriage or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And aren't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me or get ahead of me, keep up with me. And aren't I a woman? I could work and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And aren't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen them most all sold off into slavery. And when I cried out with a mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And aren't I a woman? Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's this? They call it intellect. Somebody whispers from the crowd. That's it, honey. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? then that little man in black there, he says women can't have as much rights as men because Jesus wasn't a woman. Where did Christ come from? This is great. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they are asking to do it. The men better let them. Obliged to you for hearing on me, and now old Sojourner hasn't got anything more to say. Just a thought about the progress of women's rights and how that has changed the world and continues to change the world over the centuries and in our current century, with equal participation both in voting and in the jobs that they get paid for. Equal rights, equal pay. Think about that.